The golden boy. When Martha held her newborn son for the first time, she whispered, "I will never let anything hurt you." She meant it with all her heart. After years of struggling to conceive, Nathan was her miracle, her answered prayer. His father, Daniel, was more reserved, cautious even, but Martha had already decided her son would never know pain, never face hardship. Nathan grew up in a home where his every cry was met with swift comfort. If he fell, Martha scooped him up before he could feel the sting. If he broke something, she quickly replaced it. If he misbehaved, she made excuses. "He's just a child," she would say. "He doesn't know any better." Even when Daniel tried to discipline him, Martha intervened. "Don't be so hard on him," she insisted. "He's just a boy." By the time Nathan was 5, he had already learned that no matter what he did, his mother would always defend him. If he snatched toys from other children, Martha told them to share. If he refused to eat his vegetables, she cooked his favorite meals instead. If a teacher scolded him, she marched to the school, demanding an apology. Daniel saw the warning signs early. "Martha, you're spoiling him," he said one night as Nathan slept. "He needs to learn consequences." Martha scoffed. "He's just a child, Daniel. He'll grow out of it." But Nathan didn't grow out of it. He grew into it. By the time he turned 10, Nathan believed he was special, untouchable. Rules didn't apply to him because, in his world, they never had. And though Martha didn't see it yet, the boy she adored was slowly becoming someone even she wouldn't be able to protect forever. Nathan's 10th birthday was a grand affair. Martha spared no expense, decorations lined the house, a magician entertained the children, and a towering cake stood at the center of it all. It wasn't just a party, it was a statement. Nathan was special, and the world should know it. The other children came with presents, but Nathan barely acknowledged them. He expected gifts, it was his right, after all. When his cousin, Lisa, handed him a book, he wrinkled his nose. "I don't want this," he said, tossing it aside. The adults chuckled awkwardly, but Martha beamed. "He just knows what he likes," she said. Later, during a game of tag, Nathan shoved another boy to the ground. The child scraped his knee and began to cry. His mother rushed over, furious. "Nathan, you need to say sorry," she demanded. Martha stepped in before Nathan could respond. "It was just an accident," she said smoothly. "Boys will be boys." She turned to Nathan. "Go play, sweetheart." The other parents exchanged glances, but no one dared argue. Martha was respected in the neighborhood, known for her generosity. People tolerated Nathan's behavior, even as the incidents piled up. At school, things were worse. Nathan talked back to teachers, ignored instructions, and bullied smaller kids. Whenever he was called to the principal's office, Martha arrived in a whirlwind of indignation. "My son would never do that," she insisted. Maybe the other children provoked him. Daniel watched all of this with increasing worry. "Martha, you're teaching him that rules don't matter." She waved him off. "You worry too much. He's confident, that's all. But confidence without boundaries is dangerous." And Nathan was just beginning to realize how far he could go without consequences. By the time Nathan was 12, he had fully embraced the idea that rules were for other people, not him. At school, he talked over teachers, walked out of class when he was bored, and turned in assignments late, if at all. When confronted, he would smirk and shrug, knowing Martha would handle it. And she always did. One afternoon, the principal called Martha in again. This time, Nathan had been caught cheating on a math test. The teacher had seen him copying answers and confiscated his paper. But when Martha arrived, she wasn't concerned about what Nathan had done. She was furious that he had been accused at all. "How dare you humiliate my son like this," she snapped at the principal. "You're supposed to support him, not tear him down." "Mrs. Collins," the principal said carefully, "Nathan was caught red-handed. If we don't address this now, he'll think cheating is acceptable." Martha scoffed. "He was probably just nervous." maybe the test was too difficult. If you made learning more enjoyable, maybe he wouldn't have felt the need to look at someone else's paper. The principal sighed. Martha, you can't keep making excuses for him. I'm not making excuses, she said, standing up. I'm defending my son from unfair treatment. With that, she took Nathan's hand and stormed out of the office. As they walked to the car, she glanced down at him. You're not a cheater, Nathan. They just don't understand you. Nathan grinned. He understood now, he could do anything and walk away clean. That night, Daniel tried again. Martha, he cheated. And you defended him. Do you see the problem? He's a child, Daniel, she snapped. Do you want him to feel like a failure? No, Daniel said, shaking his head. I want him to learn that actions have consequences. But Martha didn't believe in consequences. And soon, the world would suffer for it. By 13, Nathan's behavior had escalated beyond school. He had developed a sharp tongue, lashing out at teachers, neighbors, and even his father. But Martha still saw only the sweet boy she had raised, refusing to admit that something was wrong. One evening, the family attended a neighborhood gathering. The adults chatted while the children played outside. At some point, a commotion erupted. Daniel and Martha rushed out to find Nathan standing over a smaller boy, his fist clenched. The boy was on the ground, holding his stomach, gasping for breath. What happened? Daniel demanded. The other children hesitated, but one finally spoke up. Nathan took his game, and when he tried to take it back, Nathan hit him. Daniel turned to his son. Is this true? Nathan shrugged, unconcerned. He was being annoying. Before Daniel could react, Martha stepped in. It was probably an accident, she said quickly. Nathan wouldn't hurt someone on purpose. The other parents were outraged. This isn't the first time he's bullied someone, one father said. You need to discipline him. Martha bristled. My son is not a bully. Daniel clenched his jaw. Nathan, apologize. Now. Nathan crossed his arms. Why should I? He shouldn't have been crying over a stupid game. Daniel's patience snapped. He grabbed Nathan's arm. You will apologize, or we're going home. Martha pulled Nathan away. Don't touch him like that, she hissed at Daniel. Then she turned to the neighbors. This is just a misunderstanding. She took Nathan by the hand. Let's go, sweetheart. You don't have to deal with this. As they walked away, Nathan smirked. He had won again. His mother was his shield, and as long as she was there, nothing could touch him. But Daniel knew the truth, Martha wasn't protecting Nathan. She was destroying him. Daniel sat in the dimly lit living room, rubbing his temples as Martha paced angrily. I can't believe you embarrassed him like that, she fumed. Grabbing his arm in front of everyone? What kind of father does that? Daniel exhaled slowly. A father who's trying to stop his son from turning into a monster. Martha's eyes flared. Don't call him that. He's just a boy. No, Martha. He's not just a boy anymore. He's 13, and he's learning that he can do whatever he wants without consequences. He hit a child tonight. And you defended him. Martha folded her arms. He wouldn't have hit anyone if they hadn't provoked him. Daniel slammed his palm against the table, startling her. Listen to yourself. You are making excuses for him at every turn. What happens when he's 16? 18? When he's too big for you to protect? Martha shook her head. I will always protect him. Daniel stared at her, realization sinking in. He had always believed that as Nathan grew, Martha would see the truth. But she wouldn't. She had built her entire identity around shielding their son, and nothing, no warning, no consequence, would change that. That night, Daniel made a decision. He had to find a way to set Nathan straight, even if Martha fought him at every turn. The next morning, he woke up early and waited for Nathan in the kitchen. "We're going out today," he announced when his son walked in. Nathan yawned. "Where?" "You'll see." Martha entered, suspicious. "Where are you taking him?" Daniel met her gaze. "Somewhere he can learn a lesson." Nathan rolled his eyes but followed his father to the car, unaware that for the first time in his life, someone was about to hold him accountable. Nathan slouched in the passenger seat, scrolling through his phone as Daniel drove. "Where are we going?" he asked again, bored. Daniel didn't answer right away. He kept his eyes on the road, gripping the steering wheel. Finally, he said, "You need to see where the path you're on leads." Nathan smirked. "What's that supposed to mean?" Daniel didn't respond. 15 minutes later, they pulled up in front of a juvenile detention center. Nathan's smirk disappeared. "Why are we here?" he asked, shifting uncomfortably. Daniel parked and turned to his son. "Because kids who think they can do whatever they want without consequences end up in places like this." Nathan scoffed. "I'm not a criminal." Daniel's eyes darkened. "Not yet." He stepped out of the car, motioning for Nathan to follow. Reluctantly, the boy obeyed. At the entrance, Daniel greeted an officer who seemed to know him. "This is my son," Daniel explained. "I need him to see something." The officer nodded and led them inside. The air was heavy, thick with an unspoken warning. Nathan glanced around at the dull walls, the metal bars, the tired faces of young boys in orange jumpsuits. "This is where boys your age go when no one stops them from making the wrong choices," the officer said. Nathan swallowed hard. A boy, not much older than him, sat behind a glass window, staring blankly ahead. "What did he do?" Nathan asked. The officer sighed. "Robbery." He thought he was untouchable. Nathan shifted, suddenly feeling exposed. Daniel knelt beside him. "I don't want this for you, son. But if you keep acting like rules don't apply to you, this is where you'll end up." Nathan looked away, jaw clenched. He didn't want to admit it, but for the first time, fear crept in. As they left, Daniel hoped, just hoped, that the lesson had sunk in. But deep down, he knew Martha would undo it all the moment they got home. As soon as Nathan stepped through the front door, Martha rushed to him, her face tight with worry. "Are you okay, baby?" she asked, pulling him into a hug. Nathan shrugged. "Yeah, I guess." She turned to Daniel, fury flashing in her eyes. "Where did you take him?" Daniel dropped his car keys on the table and exhaled. "A juvenile detention center." Martha's face went pale. "You did what?" "I needed him to see where he's headed if he keeps acting like he's above the rules," Daniel said firmly. "He needed a wake-up call." Martha's lips trembled before she turned to Nathan. "Are you all right, sweetheart? Did those criminals scare you?" Nathan hesitated, glancing at his father. For a moment, it seemed as though the visit had made an impact. But Martha's reaction, the comfort, the reassurance that he was a victim, began to erase the unease he had felt. "I guess it was just, whatever," Nathan said, shrugging again, though he had been disturbed by what he saw. Martha turned back to Daniel, her voice rising. "How could you traumatize our son like that? He's just a child." Daniel's frustration boiled over. "Martha, that's the problem. He's not a child anymore. He's a teenager who thinks he can get away with anything because you refuse to let him face the consequences of his actions." Nathan watched, silent, as his parents argued. He knew what was coming. It always ended the same way. Martha's voice turned sharp. "I won't let you treat my son like a criminal. He's a good boy." Daniel shook his head, defeated. He turned to Nathan. "I hope you remember what you saw today." Then he grabbed his keys and walked out, slamming the door behind him. Martha pulled Nathan close, stroking his hair. "Don't listen to him, baby. He doesn't understand you like I do." Nathan exhaled, feeling a sense of relief. His father had scared him today, but now, in his mother's arms, he felt invincible again. And that was the problem. For a few days after the visit to the juvenile detention center, Nathan was quieter than usual. Daniel noticed. He hoped, even if just a little, that something had changed. But Martha noticed too, and she didn't like it. One evening, she sat next to Nathan on his bed. "You've been so quiet lately. Are you sure you're okay?" Nathan sighed. "I don't know. That place was weird." Martha stroked his arm. "You don't belong in a place like that, sweetheart. Your father was wrong to take you there." Nathan hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah. I guess he was." Martha smiled. "That's my boy." And just like that, whatever fear Nathan had felt melted away. The next week at school, Nathan decided to test the limits again. In the middle of math class, bored and irritated, he pulled out his phone. "Put that away, Nathan," the teacher said sternly. Nathan smirked and took his time lowering the phone, making sure everyone saw that he wasn't afraid. Minutes later, he pulled it out again. This time, the teacher walked over and snatched it from his hand. "You can collect this after class." Nathan stood up, anger flaring in his chest. "Give it back." The teacher shook her head. "You know the rules, Nathan." Nathan clenched his fists. "You think I care about your stupid rules?" The entire class went silent. The teacher met his glare. "Sit down, Nathan." But Nathan wasn't used to being told no. In a burst of anger, he swiped the stack of books off her desk, sending papers flying everywhere. A collective gasp filled the room. The principal was called. Nathan was suspended. At home, Daniel was furious. "Enough, Nathan. You're going to learn that actions have consequences." But before he could continue, Martha stepped in. "Suspension? Over a phone? That's ridiculous." Daniel turned to her, disbelief on his face. "Martha, he disrespected his teacher. He threw things in class. And you're defending him?" Martha crossed her arms. "You always overreact. It's not like he hurt anyone." Nathan watched them argue, a slow grin forming. He had pushed the boundary, and once again, his mother had erased it for him. He was untouchable. And now, he knew it for sure. Nathan leaned back on the couch, flipping through his phone, his smirk never fading. His father's frustration had been expected. His mother's unwavering defense? Predictable. He had them exactly where he wanted them, where they had always been. It was late when his phone buzzed. A message from Kevin, one of the older boys in his neighborhood. "Party at Jake's. No parents. Come through." Nathan barely hesitated before grabbing his jacket. He knew his mother would let him go. She always did. When his father saw him heading for the door, he tensed. "Nathan, where do you think you're going?" "Out," Nathan answered casually. "At this hour?" Martha appeared in the doorway, her arms folded but her expression soft. "Nathan, where are you headed?" "Just a friend's place." Nothing crazy. Nathan knew exactly how to play this. He had learned over the years that being vague worked best. Give too many details, and his father would ask questions. Say too little, and his mother would worry. But the right amount of harmless-sounding information? That was his ticket out. Martha hesitated but then sighed. "Just don't be out too late, okay?" His father's jaw tightened. "Martha, he's too young to be going out like this. It's almost 10. Martha gave Nathan a reassuring look. "He's responsible, and I trust him." That was the magic phrase. Nathan had heard it all his life. His father shook his head in frustration, but Nathan was already halfway out the door, pulling his hoodie over his head, grinning. Jake's house was packed. Music thumped through the walls, and the smell of beer and smoke clung to the air. Nathan didn't drink much, he liked control too much for that, but he enjoyed the scene. He liked that older guys acknowledged him, that the girls laughed at his jokes. But the night took a turn when Kevin nudged him, handing him a small bag. "Try it," Kevin said, his voice casual. Nathan hesitated. He had never gone beyond drinking, never touched anything heavier. But he also knew that saying no could make him look weak. "Relax," Kevin added. "It's nothing serious." Nathan scoffed, shaking his head. "Man, you think I'm scared?" He took the bag, rolling his eyes like it was nothing. He had no intention of using it, but the moment he accepted it, Kevin grinned, slapping him on the back. "Now you're in." Nathan smirked, pocketing it. He had no clue how much that small decision would cost him. The party ran late. By the time Nathan left, it was well past 2 a.m. The streets were empty as he walked home, feeling invincible. That's when he heard the siren. Red and blue lights flooded the pavement. A police car slowed beside him. The window rolled down, revealing an officer. "You out late, kid. Everything all right?" Nathan kept his face neutral. "Yeah, just heading home." The officer studied him. "Where from?" "Friend's place." "Mind if I see what's in your pockets?" Nathan's stomach dropped. The officer must have seen something in his expression, because he stepped out of the car. "Hands where I can see them." Nathan swallowed hard. For the first time in his life, he wasn't sure if his mother could save him from this one. Nathan's hands felt clammy as he slowly reached into his pocket, his heartbeat thudding in his ears. He knew the officer wouldn't find much, just that small bag Kevin had handed him, but even that was enough to turn his stomach. He had never been in real trouble before. Not with the law. The officer took the bag from his palm, inspecting it with a disappointed shake of his head. "You know what this is, right?" Nathan forced a shrug. "It's not mine." The officer sighed. "That's what they all say." Nathan tried to act cool, but when the officer gestured for him to turn around, panic crept into his chest. "Wait. Hands behind your back." The cold metal of the handcuffs snapped around his wrists. This wasn't like before. No arguments between his parents could erase this moment. Nathan was shoved into the back seat of the police car, his reflection staring back at him from the glass. The grin he'd worn earlier was long gone. The ringing phone jolted Martha awake. She reached for it groggily, blinking at the unknown number. "Hello? Is this Mrs. Carter?" She sat up, instantly alert. "Yes." "Who is this?" "This is Officer Daniels from the City Police Department. Your son, Nathan Carter, has been brought in for possession of a controlled substance." Martha's breath caught in her throat. There must be a mistake. He claims it wasn't his. Regardless, he was in possession of it. We need you to come to the station." She felt a sharp pang in her chest, her hands shaking as she gripped the phone. "I'll be right there." Martha stormed into the police station, her pulse racing. The sight of Nathan sitting on the bench, his hands still cuffed, made her heart squeeze. "Nathan," she gasped, rushing to him. "Are you okay?" Nathan glanced up, his face pale but still holding an edge of defiance. A tall officer approached her. "Mrs. Carter, your son was found with a small bag of illegal substances. Because he's a minor, we're releasing him to you, but this will go on record." Martha's head snapped toward Nathan. "Tell them it's not yours." Nathan hesitated. He knew his mother wanted to believe him. "It's not mine," he said finally, his voice steady. The officer didn't look convinced. "Regardless, possession is possession. He was carrying it." Martha's jaw clenched. "You can't just arrest kids for no reason." The officer sighed, handing her a paper. "This isn't an arrest, but it's a warning. If he's caught again, there won't be any discussion." Martha nodded stiffly, then grabbed Nathan's wrist, pulling him toward the door. When they got home, Nathan expected a lecture. But instead, his father sat silently in the dimly lit living room, staring at the floor. Martha started first. It wasn't his. They had no right. His father held up a hand. Enough. Nathan froze. His father's voice was calm. Too calm. You didn't do it, huh? He asked, his eyes locked onto Nathan's. Nathan swallowed. No. His father nodded, exhaling slowly. Then he stood up, looking between Martha and Nathan. You're grounded. Nathan scoffed. For what? I didn't do anything. His father's voice hardened. For walking around at 2 in the morning with people who do. Martha shook her head. James, this isn't fair. He said it wasn't his. His father turned to her, his voice carrying an edge. Martha, he got picked up by the police. That doesn't happen to innocent kids walking home from a friend's place. Martha's lips pressed together, but Nathan could see the conflict in her eyes. His father continued, his tone quieter but firm. You think you're untouchable, Nathan. But one day, there's going to be a consequence your mother can't fix. Nathan held his father's stare, the words pressing down on him. But in the end, he just shrugged. His mother would always fight for him. And as long as she did, he didn't need to be afraid. Years passed, but Nathan never truly changed. His mother continued to shield him from consequences, always finding a way to smooth over his mistakes. His father, exhausted from the constant battles, eventually stopped trying. He saw where it was leading, but he could do nothing against Martha's relentless defense of their son. Nathan barely finished high school. He had no sense of discipline, no motivation to work hard. He believed the world would always make way for him. Then, one night, everything changed. Nathan was 20 now. He had no stable job, no real direction. His friends had drifted away, some to college, others to crime. He fell in with the latter. It started small. Reckless spending, bad decisions. Then came the desperation. And that desperation led to a robbery gone wrong. Nathan wasn't the one with the gun. He wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. But when the store clerk collapsed, bleeding on the floor, it didn't matter. Nathan was arrested at the scene. This time, there was no warning. No second chance. His mother fought for him as she always had. She pleaded, hired lawyers, blamed the system, blamed the influences around him, everyone but Nathan himself. But the evidence was clear. He was charged as an accessory to murder. He was sentenced to 25 years. Martha sat across from Nathan in the visitation room, her hands trembling. He was dressed in an orange jumpsuit, his once cocky expression replaced with something hollow. She reached for his hand. I'm so sorry, baby. Nathan looked at her, something cold in his eyes. Are you? His voice was low, bitter. You should have let me fail, Mom. Tears streamed down her face. I was protecting you. Nathan shook his head. You weren't protecting me. You were protecting yourself, from having to admit I needed discipline. Martha's chest ached. She had spent his entire life shielding him, believing love meant removing obstacles from his path. But now, sitting across from her son, separated by a thick pane of glass, she finally understood. She had raised him to believe he was untouchable. And now, he was lost. Overprotection is not love. Shielding a child from consequences does not prepare them for life, it weakens them. Children need discipline, structure, and the ability to learn from their mistakes. Parents who fight every battle for their child rob them of the resilience they need to survive in the real world. Because one day, there will be a consequence they cannot erase. And by then, it may be too late. A child who never learns to take responsibility will grow into an adult who blames the world for their failures. Every child needs to understand that their actions have consequences, both good and bad. Discipline is not cruelty, it is guidance. Love means preparing them for life, not protecting them from it. It is a parent's job to raise a child who can stand on their own. The real world is not kind, and no one will fight for them the way their parents do. If they never learn resilience, self-control, and responsibility, they will crumble the moment life stops making excuses for them. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss more interesting story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell.